pretty dang beautiful slice, isn't it?
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your girl, Morgan. Welcome back to Confessions of an Everyday Cook. Today we're going to be making coconut cream pie. Now this is a recipe that is very near and dear to my heart. It is something that, I kid you not, I have been making since I was 4 years old. That's right, 4 years old. I guess it was just one of those things 4-year-old Morgan saw in a cookbook and decided it was going to be her thing. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be making a homemade pie crust. I'm going to show you how to make the filling as well as whipped cream topping. So let's get started. So to get started, we are going to do our pie crust first because we want this to bake and cool down before we add the filling. I have my oven preheating at 475 degrees Fahrenheit. So right here I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to add 1 cup of cold butter, just cut into little cubes, and then a ½ cup of shortening. We're gonna have our paddle attachment on here, and we're gonna let it go at low speed so that the butter and shortening can cut into the flour. You'll know it's ready when the flour and butter mixture has the same texture as rice. You want the butter to be cold, that way it doesn't start to melt while it is cutting into the flour. We don't want melted butter because it throws off the texture of the pie crust. What we're really going for is nice and flaky. While this is going, I have a cup of water here that has some ice cubes in it. Gonna let that sit there. And we also have 1 egg that has been whisked and some white vinegar. That way everything's ready to go. We can quickly do this. Once it resembles the rice texture, we're going to add our egg and half a teaspoon of vinegar. And while this is going, we want to add the ice cold water 1 tablespoon at a time until it just starts to come together. All right, this is ready to get rolled out. Okay, pie crust is done. We're going to lightly flour our work surface and our rolling pin. And we're gonna roll this as thin as we can. We want it to be just big enough to fit in the particular pie pan that you're using. And if it starts to stick, that's okay. Just make sure you put lots of flour on your rolling pin and on the dough. Okay, this is perfect. Now go ahead and get your rolling pin nice and floured again. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the dough and slowly roll it up and over the rolling pin. Be very careful. If it starts to stick, you can use a spatula to kind of help loosen the dough. And just very gently roll this up. Grab our pie pan, and we're going to take it and lift this up and roll it over. And if it starts breaking apart, that's fine. Just pat it into the bowl. You can take some extra trimmings from the pie crust and just kind of squish it on there so that you have enough dough that it is going to go over the lip of your pan. Why is pie crust so hard? Honestly though, all this work is totally worth it because homemade pie crust tastes so much better than store-bought, in my opinion. We're gonna poke a couple holes in the pie crust with a fork. This just helps it to not bubble up. So just to be a little bit extra, we all know I'm very extra. We're gonna take our fork and lightly go across the lip of the pie pan. This helps it adhere to the lip a little bit better, but really it's just to make it look pretty. This is gonna go in our preheated oven at 475 degrees for about 10 minutes. Our pie crust is done. It is nice and golden brown. We're gonna set this off to the side to cool while we get our filling going. So here in a saucepan, I have 3 cups of milk, and then we are going to add 3 egg yolks to it. So I'm gonna show you a fun trick on how to separate your yolk and your white. So I just have a little container here. I have my egg. The first way, you can use the shell to help separate the yolk from the white. So be very gentle and then use it like a cup, like that, and then transfer it over And you do this, just go back and forth until the most of the whites are gone. And we're gonna put it in our milk mixture. Now, the second way is the way I like to do it. The reason is I find when you're using the eggshell can actually puncture the yolk and then you end up losing some of it. I like to do it with just my hands. So I crack it the same way and put it in my hands and just cradle the yolk in my hand and go back and forth until the whites drop off. But I totally understand if you have a thing about getting raw stuff on your hands, and you could just do it the shell way. Okay, so we have our 3 cups of milk with our 3 egg yolks in it. We're gonna turn this on medium heat. Give this a good whisk to break the yolks up. And then we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. Mix this in really well. Now we're gonna add our cornstarch. What we're gonna do is we're going to add a 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons. And 1/4 cup, 2 teaspoons. And we're gonna add 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. So you wanna stir this pretty much constantly because as the custard thickens, you don't want it to end up burning on the sides or the bottom of the pan. So really keep an eye on it. While this is going, I'm going to turn my oven on to a low broil, and we're gonna stick some shredded coconut on a pan here like this and stick it in the oven just for like 1 or 2 minutes until they're nice and toasted. I like to start off using a whisk for this to help break up any clumps that might form. However, as it gets thicker, I do like changing over to a spatula. Just keep stirring, just keep stirring. What do we do? We stir, stir, stir. So this part may seem a little bit tedious. However, it's actually one of my favorite parts, just sitting here and stirring it. It's so relaxing, but also because 4-year-old Morgan, this is what she could help with. So I would beg my mom to let me stand here and stir the custard for her. More than likely also imitating Paula Deen, pretending I had my own cooking show. Look at me now. Follow your dreams, kids. All right, this has just started boiling, so we're gonna set a timer for 1 minute, as well as I did go ahead and take out my toasted coconut from the oven. Okay, this is done. We're gonna turn off our heat and take it off. I have 2 tablespoons of butter I'm gonna throw in here. We're gonna add 2 teaspoons of our good vanilla. And we're gonna stir this until the butter is fully incorporated. Once the butter is incorporated, we're gonna add about a 1/2 cup of our toasted coconut. Might even put a little extra just because I love coconut. Yeah, I'm gonna add more coconut. So 3/4 cup. Now we're gonna go take this over to our pie crust. Okay, our pie crust is cool and we still have our warm custard here. So we're gonna take it and pour it into our pie crust. Yes. Okay, we're gonna let this sit here and cool for a couple minutes, at which point we're going to take either parchment paper or wax paper and put it over the top of this and make sure to press it down onto the custard, because when it is in the fridge, you don't want it to form a skin on top. And then we're gonna let this sit in the fridge for a few hours until it's completely cool, which is gonna be really hard because I kind of want to eat it now. Okay, so our pie is currently in the fridge. I'm gonna show you how to do our whipped topping. What you wanna do is place your bowl and whatever you're using to whisk the heavy cream, you wanna put those in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes just to get it nice and cold, and it helps the whipped cream to come together a little bit better. So we have 1 cup of heavy whipping cream and 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. And turn this on high speed until it comes together into stiff peaks. So a stiff peak means that when you have a whisk or a spatula and you go to move the whipped cream, what's gonna happen is that the peak that you make is going to stay standing. A soft peak comes up and then it slowly goes back down. All right, let's go assemble our pie. Okay, so we have our pie, our whipped cream, and then our toasted coconut that we made earlier. This has been sitting in the fridge for about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm just gonna take this parchment paper off. All right, time to add the whipped cream. Spread this everywhere. Now what I'm gonna do, this is just something that me and my mom like to do. I'm just gonna take the spatula and just create little peaks all over the pie, just to add some texture to it, and I think it makes it look pretty. Now time for our coconut. Put as much or as little as you want on here. I'm kind of insane and like to put a ton on here, so. I'm gonna go stick this in the fridge for about 10 or 15 minutes just so it has time to set a little bit more. And then we're gonna eat it. Ba-ba-da-da.
So right before I started recording, I realized I do not have a pie cutter, which is strange because I have pie around the house all the time. Why wouldn't I have a pie cutter? So we're gonna be using a spatula, a knife, and hopes and prayers. It's not gonna be the prettiest slice, but it will be the yummiest. Okay, let's dig in here. Yes! Okay, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. That's a pretty dang beautiful slice, isn't it? Alright, let's take a bite. This brings back so many memories. Sitting in the kitchen with my mom, making this all the time. The crust is perfectly buttery and flaky. The custard and the whipped cream are both light, so smooth. High five, guys.
Alright, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please make sure you like and subscribe, as well as check out my Instagram page, @Confessions of an Everyday Cook.
See you next time. Bye!